Often it can put on too much for that. So just opening up with it and seeing how it goes is something that I've seen a lot in Shadowverse in the past, even in different metas.
Okay, so actually we see one Haven, and then Ringo actually chooses an open with Dragon here. So he opens with his difference deck.
Right. Seems like a full mulligan for the top side Misobon wanting to find some kind of curve.
Ugh, that's...
Eagle Man is good, but he doesn't really have much yet for it. I forgot whether he was on the draw.
He got back the same cards almost, except for Arya. He didn't have Arya.
Garuda does not seem at all like a very good thing to be holding in the opening hand.
No.
As Garuda seems more of a backup in case your Lion doesn't really work out and you have to end up playing out your amulets.
Dragon's got kind of a mix mulligan here. Like Blazing Breath's obviously good against neutral. Grimner's kind of good against neutral.
Tosses him for a Bahamut. Reasonable mulligan, just unfortunate.
But with him being on the draw, Grimner's not as good. Because you play Grimner, and if they have Alice, like always, then, you know, he dies.
And that's that.
So.
Alright, Dread Sea and Polyphonic Roar. Alongside Bahamut, that spells something that might become relevant much, much later.
However, right now, terrible.
So he immediately tosses out the Blazing Breath, perhaps recognizing he doesn't want to play it next turn. Conserve those play points to just search, find something else he can play with this hand. Maybe he finds an Ayala. Sybil is pretty good.
Found a Sybil, it's pretty nice. Finding Ayala here would be perfect. Dragon Oracle even would be fine. That's
another
not good.
Dragon Summoner.
Don't want that.
That's not like you can only run one of them. Otherwise you'd never see it on turn 2.
True. Misobon completely breaking here though.
So Misobon looking at not having a turn 3 or a turn 4 at the moment.
Hear the dragons roar.
Ayala
drawn. Not having a turn 3 or 4 also weakens your turn 5 even. You know, you do have Marcher's Tea Time, but there's a Unica. You know, your hand is kind of clogged with these cards that need, you know, neutrals to be played. Right?
And if you start working on Eagle Man a little bit too late, then he starts to lose his novelty. There's a card that is able to be played as a huge stat line for so cheap.
Right.
If he had even just played one more neutral follower, then the Goblin Princess might allow him to cheat out Eagle Man next turn, but unfortunately he wasn't able to find that.
Ayala also a pretty safe evolve here, you know, getting rid of the Unica. There's the neutral Haven package is not playing access to any banishes. Actually, has no banishes whatsoever. So this Ayala is going to always ramp.
It's always actually surprised me a little bit that they even forego running Black in Scripture because they just want to play their neutral.
They want 2-drops. They want to play, you know, followers.
So, as Ringo has not yet ramped at all, it doesn't really matter whether this Ayala goes or not. The Sybil will be active next turn for a bit more ramp. Misobon here has a couple options of how to play out this turn. I find the Goblin Princess puts him at a pretty good position on board.
Goblin Princess or Marcher's Tea Time this turn because he has Garuda follow-up. And can wipe the board doing that, so...
Yeah, not like he has a Lion in his hand that he's been working on. So Marcher's Tea Time does a lot for him if he gets both sides of value out.
True.
So I guess how he uses his evolve comes down to whether he plays Marcher's Tea Time, so it looks very, very likely now.
You were done for.
Evolve going to be used up on the Tin Soldier. He spares the bird so that he can throw this damage phase.
I like that too, actually.
Accepts this, the rest of his board is still doing absolutely fine after that trade.
And the Sybil coming down, ramping him, healing him. Also killing the 5/5.
It won't be long now.
Solid response, but a Garuda to follow up that Tea Time is so powerful here. Because there's no trade that this Sybil can make that gets over that 3 damage.
Face damage kind of being erased here is still always good.
Absolutely. Though, I think that looks to have been the strongest turn that Misobon will have had for a while. The last big surprise he has is any possibility in the future of dropping a double Eagle Man, but it looks like he's already starting to run out of his resources.
He is, but, ooh, Isterfield being huge. Actually, because Sockwell in hand. But Ringo's, you know...
Not exactly a plethora of answers here.
Nothing really going on, actually.
He can answer two followers.
Yeah, until Bahamut's a playable card.
The fact that he's lacking in one more piece of ramp as well, not that he would be able to fit it very well here, means that he's not going to have access to Bahamut until the turn after next. So maybe Misobon's in a position where he just has to throw out as much as he can here. Because I don't see a throw out a Bahamut and any way to come back into the game after that.
And on 9, now that he's out of an Evolve, you know, he does have a second Sock Wheel, so...
I'm seeing actually, as we discussed, the not playing Black in Scripture, but along those lines, that when Neutral Haven does not really play very much along the lines of being able to remove even low health or injured followers, as Ringo has here, it means that the way they end up having to play in the mid and late game here is either they've taken the board and they have the advantage, and they can just transfer that all into face damage.
Right.
That, or if it doesn't work out, they don't really have other options of how they stabilize here.
Right. Usually usually a deck like this doesn't even care to stabilize. It just ignores those followers and goes face, because realistically you're at 15, you don't care if you hit it for 6, it's going to trade anyway, so... That's kind of just the plan.
Right.
But, that second Sock Wheel.
Throws in as much as possible, and there is a lot here. So second Sahak Wheel more or less effectively sweeps all of this up. Deals with the Eagle Man, the Sahak Wheel gets to go face, after which Misobon's hand is sorely lacking in the ability to answer any of this.
Doesn't answer, but it basically builds itself back up, so...
A lot of value is going to be refunded from these Goblin Princesses.
Right.
But Misobon himself is not looking too healthy anymore. A lot being lost here. Has drawn all 3 Eaglemen, but seems as just the way his curves have worked out, that trying to get that advantage has just not worked out for him.
It hasn't. You're right.
But I think we were right about our observation that players tend to throw out Haven early just to see whether it works or not. And if it doesn't, then surely they can just try to roll it into something else, perhaps a better matchup.
Also double Eagle Man. Pretty good.
Doing the best he can. Unfortunately, most likely in comes a Bahamut here.
Probably. Grimner's also...
Grimner's definitely decent. I think it doesn't leave Ringo with a strong enough board position.
Right. I would say so as well.
Yeah. The double trade from the Sahak Wheel, while possible, is damage that wouldn't really be that much different than playing Bahamut here, and then you would have one last stabilized follower here.
True dat.
So something I'm trying to understand about how Dreadsea works is, Queen of the Dreadsea, I forget, is it always followers that it can work on?
No, it works on anything.
Right. So is there
neutral card, faction card.
Right. So is the possibility that he could Dreadsea in order to play the Bahamut, and then have a 0-cost polyphonic roar that he could set up after that?
For sure, definitely.
Yeah, that puts on a lot more pressure here than just playing Bahamut, and that's probably what Ringo is now thinking about.
You pop your own 7/7, but you don't care.
I
mean, you also ditch your entire hand, which is kind of whatever.
True.
You may not care.
Setting up a polyphonic roar and a Bahamut body against a Haven list that Ringo understands does not really play any answers to.
However, you do have a whole hand that answers things, and tossing it all away.
True.
You know, just to maybe win. Goes for Grimner, actually. I do kind of like this though, because you're gonna bait at least one of these Goblin Knights out now, Goblin Kings now, which will die to Bahamut. So.
Continues on for the trade. Yes, plays this very patiently, as we've seen a lot from this grand final so far.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Just as I suggested, was a really aggressive play and while interesting to entertain, I've noticed a lot of the times that areas of that were in contention for plays. These players have been taking it very carefully, trying to go for guaranteed ways to hold all of their resources.
And now, I mean, Goblin King Kai as a carrot is great. Love Goblin King Kai as a carrot.
Oh, goes
Never
for the
mind, game
double
over.
Goblin King.
Yeah, that's not a good idea.
Unfortunate. No wards left in hand. Nothing remains to answer what Ringo has in store here.
That's pretty ballsy. I mean, you know, maybe you considered there's no way he's holding Bahamut, right? Because he didn't Bahamut last board.
Yeah, another way is that perhaps we're looking at ways that Misobon could play this out in response to Dragon having Bahamut, but Misobon may here be thinking, Bahamut or no Bahamut, I have to play to win. I'm already very far behind in cards. I just have to set up as much power on board as I can. And if Ringo has it, he has it. Misobon's probably already comfortable with this idea. Dreadsea. And you can see.
Dreadsea Bahamut Polyphonic Roar.
Right.
Yes.
This is absolutely horrifying. That is so much done in one turn. Right. Not that Misobon doesn't have a way to defend himself from this. I suppose I definitely see, as you explained, there is a huge disadvantage to throwing away your whole hand here.
There is, yes. What if he top decks Grimner? He's fine. He has lethal. Even 2 damage.
Breath of the Salamander.
Right. There it is.
Oh.
Breath of the Salamander.
Breath of the Salamander.
What a good call.
This is the most like classic way that I've ever seen Dragon finish games. Is Bahamut into Breath of the Salamander, and the Polyphonic Roar is just sitting there like I'm here.
Right. And that's 1 win for Ringo. So. But you know, we've seen 1 win not matter before, right? Like,
absolutely.
We've seen these go to game 5 all the time. We've seen them go to, you know, sweeps. What really, game 1 means nothing, right? So.
And just seeing Haven, how it works out, how it goes in the way. We haven't really seen that Haven usually be the deciding factor of whether or not one player moves on. Exactly.
Also, Haven versus Dragon. If Dragon just gets enough time, that's going to happen, right? That's just going to happen. So. That's just how the cookie crumbles. Throwing out Haven first, like you said, is really strong in the sense that it can just randomly win against things. So, very similar to old mid-range Shadow.
I'm noticing that, as well, Haven throwing out as much as it can on curve doesn't seem to be as effective, given that, especially in games like that, where Ringo did not exactly find Lion or any particular place.
Right. Like, he found Eaglemen, but those weren't really a payoff against Dragon.
Right. And that's not even really that bad of a situation to have Eaglemen and all of those Goblin Princesses.
Like, Eagleman is a great payoff card. He played 2 of them in the same turn, but we saw it didn't matter at all.
Right. So Ringo just had too much time to get his ramp against Misobon there.
So Miso switching it up, going to his neutral rune on the back of that loss. Ringo going to mid-range Shadow? And now we're seeing 2 decks that are super similar, honestly. Shadow having a little bit more removal access, obviously, but both decks kind of have the same plan. You know, they want to play that mid-range game. They want to get to 7-ish, kinda.
Yeah, I'm noticing the way they approach the game ends up being quite similar with the neutral package across all classes. Though it's really interesting to see how popular Rune has been here, as they have... Neutral Rune seems to have fallen off entirely in its popularity in the West, but there's so much of it.
There's a little bit of it. A little bit, but we're more apt to play Dirt Rune.
Right.
You know, Burn Rune. But I mean, you know, Felice is still a great card. Felice is still incredible.
The little Soul Squasher comes out for lack of another suitable option. Lurching Corpse perhaps just trying to dodge any removal or just have a poor trade into a 2-drop like Unica.
For sure, probably see Lurching Corpse this turn. Interesting that he chose to trade. Scared of all the neutral package cards. Wow, even a Soul Squasher coming down instead of Corpse.
Yeah, this is something I actually very rarely see. Perhaps Ringo is feeling that he needs to get something onto the board if he's on the play. Needs to be ahead. Unfortunately, didn't have a 3-drop, which he now has. Could have been feeling that he wants to get more value out of these Lurching Corpses.
Doesn't want them trading with a 2/2.
And he doesn't have that many shadows, so even if Misobon were to have a Evolve next turn, he wouldn't have the Little Soul Squasher's ability active for that.
Tossing out both is going to be interesting, though. He likely won't have access to Soul Squasher all game now.
Tossing out Lurching Corpses just before the opponent has an Evo turn has always been a really obnoxious way to handle it.
Oh, yeah.
I wouldn't completely disagree with Bone Chimera here either.
I think Bone Chimera here is fine. And trade, keep up your whole trading plan. If you're scared of Alice, obviously.
Right. Does seem to be thinking about it quite a bit, though. Wants to consider all of his options. Even Necro Assassin here, though, I don't feel that would particularly be the right way.
No, there's no way that's the play.
I think Ringo wants to be able to hold on to one of these Lurching Corpses because in a tempo-oriented matchup, as much as Neutral Rune versus Mid-Shadow, having Lurching Corpse into Necro Assassin on 6 is a really powerful play. But decides he cannot hold them for that reason.
Yep, never mind.
Good on him to trade there, does play around this Alice very effectively.
Alice being top deck there. Pretty solid. It's kind of weird to play Alice here. You know, you're not going to evolve forever.
Right.
Right.
That's a fair amount of value to get off of Alice in this hand, but Misobon may be trying to just see, is there any way I can feasibly get on board anytime soon without needing to commit too much? Perhaps he doesn't even need to go for an evolve here, as killing one of these Lurching Corpses is not going to do very much, or set anything up.
He is going for board.
Okay, it seems he's trying to play out what he's most willing to lose to these Lurching Corpses, his 1-drops and his carrot.
Doesn't care as much about those.
Now, is there a reason for him to evolve here and deal with one of them in the meanwhile, as the effect of the Lurching Corpse wouldn't take much value away from him? He would
I would
still have the
imagine
board,
never. Right. Just because corpses can't actually attack anything.
Right.
He played 2, but he still needs to, in a 4-card hand, have a way to kill them. So.
And Misobon is already ahead on board here. He's already threatening these Lurching Corpses just by the nature of having 2/2/2s out.
Right.
Unfortunate to see hands like this where Ringo has like 2 3-drops that are good plays, but floats a lot by doing so. But interesting choice here. I don't believe there's any reason to play Necro Assassin and not get very much value off of them. Unfortunately, this Wise Merman is not putting any value or pressure onto the board, but he is in the way of Lurching Corpse getting a good hit in.
True. He's also being, you know, a problem if buffed by Alice. 2/2. Becomes the same thing as the rest of the board.
A very real threat. So I guess the question that Ringo is now facing is, do I Bone Chimera or do I Attendant?
He's going to Bone Chimera evolve.
Right.
The Bone Chimera, I imagine.
Definitely going for the Bone Chimera is smart here, realizing my Lurching Corpses have the same limitation as Attendant of Night. I'm not going to be able to get any trades here.
Right.
But there is some pressure starting to come down.
This is going to give...
Wizardess of Oz gives Misobon a perfect reason to start trying to dump out this hand here.
Double Lyrial makes sense now.
His board is wide enough that I still don't think that Misobon is at enough of a disadvantage where he needs to deal with these Lurching Corpses.
Right.
Plus, the Lyrial just trades so cleanly into this Bone Chimera.
Can even after, you know, once you kill a bunch of stuff, start attacking the Lurching Corpses if you wanted to.
He would still be a head and card advantage at that point.
Oh, okay. Does get rid of one with carrot. Lyrial carrot, likely?
Right, I like this very much. He can try to force the Lurching Corpse if he wishes to, on a 50-50, take out the ultimate carrot again, if he doesn't want to lose any card advantage to either Lurching Corpse. It looks like he's just going to go for the safe way. Just going to trade out into everything and play the carrots to make that same threat. And still, hasn't really committed too many of his stronger cards here.
Right,
like
he hasn't
Body of
committed
Alice.
really anything.
So, Ringo's still here facing down a lot of pressure, into the point where he could consider using this Necro Assassin, but it would be a use of some of the most premium removal he's going to have.
Right, this is looking really bad for Ringo, actually. Like, terrible for Ringo.
Right. Not unanswerable, but not a solid outlook on the late game, but next turn he has Immortal Thane, which I've noticed Rune has a lot of trouble dealing with.
They do, yeah. I mean, really anybody. Thane's a great card.
So is there a universe in which he goes Attendant of Night, evolves Lurching Corpse, and then plays Dark Conjurer? As there wouldn't be any value in evolving the Attendant of Night, but that would be the only play that doesn't use up his Necro Assassin.
Never mind. Necro Assassin the play,
right.
apparently.
He didn't attack with the Lurching Corpse either, he just wanted to get rid of it.
Missed that 1 damage rip.
Shapely and succulent.
It's gonna be a perfect Alice turn.
This
Evolve
carrot has been putting in so much work.
Carrot, that's what carrot does. He puts in work.
Yeah, this carrot has just been completely handling the situation with the Lurching Corpses.
It won't be long now.
Evolving carrot playing around Soul Squasher.
Crazy amazing! That's me! It's so quiet.
Very solid Alice here, hitting 3 targets, and Ringo, at this point, I think this is going to be the strongest turn we're going to see from Ringo in a long time, just getting this Thane out. But still, so much
isn't
damage.
that great, even. It's not even that great.
There's a lot of damage being thrown onto it by the carrot that makes it very easy to deal with.
Right. And even still, you know, 1 defense followers are easy to take out. Very easy, so.
Angel of the Word and Lyrial in hand here.
And also buffed.
That's true as well.
They're swole.
So without a Necro Assassin left, Ringo's hand is really just ways to try to get back onto the board, but at this much of a disadvantage, it doesn't look particularly likely.
May you rot and decay.
Okay.
Let's play again.
That's fine. I like that.
Deals with the Alice, knows that these whites have the right stat line to trade into the ultimate carrot.
This is
Angel of the Word, Lyriel, even Merman can come down.
Yeah.
unbelievable.
Empties out his hand here, and Wizardess of Oz looking even better. Dance of Death already counting as a spell here.
This ends here.
Will forces Lyriel to kill herself on the
Wings are killing
thing,
me.
but whatever, you know.
Deals with the rest of the board and does allow this ultimate carrot to go face this turn.
Right. For 6.
A new thing will follow.
I think a lot comes down to what Ringo starts to find soon, because dealing with a reload from Wizardess of Oz here doesn't sound like fun.
Doesn't.
Actar?
Ictar's pretty good. Yeah.
Definitely one of the better draws he could have gotten here. Especially considering its synergy with White King, which I've only seen recently, but doesn't have enough shadows quite.
Well, he does if he throws in the zombies. They can't get rush. But if he throws the zombies in, get the 4 back.
Right.
Since Ictar will always consume a static 8 now. I imagine that's gonna be his play. Yeah.
He can clear the board up, and yeah, getting the Ector here definitely puts him in a position where he's ahead on board for the first time, but I feel Misobon can easily make a comeback here based on Oz and Dance of Death already being guaranteed to kill one thing.
Whoa, no White King.
Right, leaves it alone.
I am a fiction and a falsehood.
3 cards and has the last play point remaining for the Dance of Death. I think that is just too brutal for Ringo to come back from.
That was insane. Yeah, no evolves, no death's breaths or anything. Thane's kind of whatever. Although Thane White King's not bad here. Thane White King's pretty good.
Yeah, definitely. Drawing Ector into Thane is more or less just getting his late game curve.
Thane, Conjurer, White King looks pretty solid. It's kind of the best you can do.
I suppose getting back into this game means Ringo at this point has to continue to put up boards that Misobon can't deal with, and this is the closest it will ever get.
Let's get into trouble.
May death be majestic.
So with only... Okay, now with 3 neutral cards in hand, Felice doesn't perfectly deal with the White King.
Right.
But it doesn't look like he has the resources to find any kind of lethal anytime soon. I find that this is actually a really difficult board to deal with now.
These are my best work.
Well, I mean, Hector's gonna do 3. Felice would do 3. Can use Carrot to get through this ward. So the Bane's not hitting anything important. Can't obviously push 5 here, since you take 2 in the back draw and Ictar could just kill you, so...
Right, it's just dealing with the remnants of this next Thane is just not looking easy at all. It's a lot of damage being tossed to him, and another White King.
It's actually not that bad.
Death is nothing.
He's got a plethora of Felices and Hectors, which are basically spells with bodies on them. So, really, we're gonna really see the changes to Felice be humongous here.
Right.
So, no longer able to enhance and gain Storm for free.
I think the ultimate carrots are just absolutely carrying this game,
Oh,
I'm
they are.
noticing.
Yeah,
They're able to
carrot-
throw in 2 damage and then
Infinite value.
increase. Right. Add another neutral card to the hand on top of being able to get that trading damage in. Already dealt with Lurching Corpses. I think Misobon, just off of the nature of having this carrot, has been ahead the entire time. And may continue to do so.
Ringo going for a draw. He's going some aggressive draws. Does find a zombie party.
This does help him start to recover parts of this board. Unfortunately, killing the Wizardess of Oz is going to have next to no value.
I mean, you get rid of a 4-3. So, and that 4-3 is starting to kill you.
Right, it's just Wizardess of Oz's natural attempt at having a disadvantage is losing all the spells and Misobon.
Right, and you're not going to lose any spells.
Just
Yeah.
drew into a fan of neutral cards, all with their own synergies.
Right, that feels bad, man. Lurching Corpse, I mean, not Lurching Corpse, Necro Assassin, kinda bad since the Lurching Corpse is available.
I'm sorry.
Lyriel slap down for sure.
Batch will be tastier.
But Ringo doing as he can still, at the end of several turns, able to put up these plays that flip the board in his favor.
Gilgameshu.
Gilgameshu. Right out the back. That is a confirmed win condition from Misobon's side now.
Just has to play Hector, Felice, and set up for Gilgamesh. Sounds good to me.
Though, with the number of shadows that Ringo has, getting the White King up... Nah, I'm feeling that this ultimate carrot is actually single-handedly also dealing with this next White King. It puts enough damage onto it that Felice can deal with the next thing, and Ringo has to continue to draw. Perhaps even...
I've got to win.
I don't believe that these lists even play usually a third Thane or something like Death's Breath, so there's just no way to deal with the amount of damage that Hector is going to put on together with the infinitely recurring carrot, the body of Felice, which is very hard to remove, and the Gilgamesh in hand.
Needs Lurching Corpse.
Ooh.
Not Lurching Corpse.
So he's drawn 2, and the third could be anywhere in the remaining 22 cards of his deck.
Can still find it. Bone Chimera, Soul Conversion. Can dig for it.
If he doesn't, at the very best, he can only remove one Elise here, in which case Hector creates a pretty solid setup.
Didn't find it.
Zombie Party, not contributing anything here in the way of dealing with Elise's very high stat line.
White King looks like a good play. It's honestly not that bad, really.
Double Hector.
Double Hector. So, I mean, you know, White King not that bad. It's going to force a trade, actually. So
yeah.
It's either Felice or Gilgamesh going into it.
It's just that Ringo is really on his last leg here. If he loses the followers he has on board, all he has left is an Hector. And I believe that would make most of the 7-cost late-game win conditions he has. Though, Zombie Party is now active with its
Zombie
hands
Party
as well.
does make 3 zombies. So it is a zombie party. They're much more lively than we are at this point.
Indeed.
So
It's a 3 AM zombie party.
This is an awkward turn. I think a Hector's involved. I think double Hector is involved.
Double?
Does that trigger? What's the far right card in his hand?
That is a Kaiser.
So it does trigger. Double Hector does trigger. So you need 3.
Guess for this trade anyway.
A shining helmet.
So, trying to trade and then play into 2 Hectors here. Clear as much as he can, only leave a skeleton left. Probably trying to make the play to have a solid board lead against Ringo with very few cards left. Did he hit face? No, he's going for the second carrot.
He's going for carrots. Yeah. 4 carrots. All carrots. Another Eater. It's pretty good.
Ringo has had some very solid draws these past few.
Yes, he has.
Gone into his Thanes, his Hectors, and has a zombie party. He can stay afloat here. I'm actually feeling like Misobon is slowly starting to lose his front foot.
Ringo's got an interesting play this turn. He can actually even zombie party the Hector. Trade in the skeleton. And then Necrocessant kills it 2/2.
It's another solid board flip to go for.
Right.
And with the amount of shadows that would be making, I believe both Hectors could very easily have the zombies come out of them. And I think getting that full value means Ringo is in no particular pressure to have to push
even
face
still,
him.
like he needs 16 for that. So just playing Eater right now puts him at 16.
Right.
So effectively. So
you could be considering here for a moment the attractiveness of getting such a valuable trade as the zombie party, but wants to make sure if he plays the Hector here, what's he missing out on as opposed to playing zombie party, and vice versa.
Eater also puts up a body. You know your opponent's deck. You know the biggest reach he's got is Gilgamesh.
Right.
And Eater's not killable by Gilgamesh. So if you clear the board, your Eater can't die.
Yeah, and Misobon's hand is very small, otherwise just has some carrots. Felice is not going to do much. Wait, has Misobon played all 3 Felices at this point?
Yes. And all really, this can... Ooh, he actually opts to pop a zombie party. Puts him at 6, though. This is pretty big.
This takes Misobon completely off the board.
Yeah.
He knows that Rune of all classes does not have much access to getting resolved attackers here. Very little Storm. Other than the Gilgamesh, I think Misobon has actually had the entire situation flipped on him.
That's game.
So quiet.
Right. The second Hector is absolutely enough. There's nothing in Misobon's deck that this Goblin Mage is going to draw into to prevent it.
Yeah. It's game. Game number 2 for Ringo.
I thought Misobon was really far ahead the whole time.
I did too.
You know,
The whole
Shadow
time.
can definitely pull this through. They have a lot of 7-cost cards, but for a
Inkter,
reason.
even after changes, still an insanely good card. So,
I'm sorry.
nice.
Looks like
Well
Yeah.
played by Ringo.
So Misobon wasn't able to put on enough pressure to get that finishing damage off of Gilgamesh, highly due to the Thanes, I believe. It was the 2
Yeah,
Thanes
the
that kept him alive.
Thanes grinding out and obviously drawing Ikters, you know, when you need / want them. Pretty useful.
Absolutely.
But, you know, I mean, that's kind of what Shadow does. They have a lot of cycling and Soul Conversion, Demon Eater. You know, these cards cycle through your deck a lot. Kind of like what Rune used to do, but now Shadow can do it, right? Very efficiently, very easily.
I think that's a really huge change to Shadow's identity as well, just the
Oh, yeah.
printing of Demon Eater, is the ability to run effectively 6 sacrifice 1 draw 2 cards means they get a lot more shadows and they get a lot more value out of being able to run cards like Ektar.
They cycle through so much of their deck, and it's like, man, of course they had Inkter. Well, it's like, yeah, of course they had Inkter. They cycle their deck so much.
He went through easily more than half of his deck that game, so it wasn't even too particularly unlikely that he'd have all of those high value cards.
Right. But yeah, I mean, that's just what we've seen Shadow be doing forever. Shadow's been doing that for a while now, so. So this could actually just be a sweep. Sweepo could sweep in.
That it could.
In despair, all you know? I guess you're looking for a fight.
So Miso brought his neutral Haven again. Or neutral Rune, sorry. Haven again. And Ringo is now on neutral Haven, so.
Right, Ringo just simply needs to make this one work out in his favor. Interesting to see the opposite approach of this, as Ringo has elected to bring his neutral Haven last.
Yeah, interesting. That is interesting because, you know, we were talking about how neutral Haven was a good toss out for first. And Ringo disagrees completely. He's just saving it.
Maybe Ringo was thinking, I want to win with what other decks I have first. Maybe if everyone else is starting Haven, I'm going to start my matchups that seem to be able to stabilize against it just fine. And then when I'm ahead, I'm going to start bringing out the Haven and give it a lot of different chances and draw a lot of different hands and see which one is good enough. But that seems to be the standard fare for playing an aggro or tempo-based deck.
Very interesting hand for Miso. Ringo opted to mulligan away a Beast Call Aria, and it worked out for him because he got, you know, got a 2-drop, he got Faeria to play, but you know, he doesn't have a 3-drop. Not playing Area last turn means that he has to kind of hope he draws a 3-drop that's playable, and he does. Unica counts.
Unica does just fine here. I'm noticing that this is another interesting thing that Wonderland Dreams has introduced, is sometimes just playing a 2-cost card on turn 3 is just fine because of the sheer number of synergies behind it.
Right, yes, because a trade is forced here, because Alice is a possibility. Not to mention lowering the cost of your Eagle Man is a huge deal, so.
This opens up a lot of options for Ringo, and Misobon is going to have to catch up.
He does get to evolve first, though, so there's
Right.
that. Can put a carrot in his hand as well.
I'd say the only thing that's starting to look awkward about Misobon's next turn is it seems that he's going to be floating a little bit of play points on his turn 4. Might not have the most impactful evolve here.
Right. Just for Goblin Lead instead.
Gimme!
Witch's Sweets, okay.
Show's over.
Opting not to kill Unica, instead killing Faeria, because Faeria can buff the entire board and Unica can't.
Lands of Wonders.
Alice coming down, and because he's against a, you know, a value like neutral Rune, I was gonna say the trade here is pretty imminent. I'm feeling this trade, but Lyriel, the thing about that value trade is that Lyriel's not played, but for some reason, Misobon, for the first time in the history of Shadowverse, does not have a Lyriel in his hand.
Lyriel.
Yeah, he's got Angel of the Word anyway, but
Good enough.
yeah, same thing.
Though, even with that said, having a Lyriel would have been so good, just if not to go for the draw off the Witch of Sweets.
Right, yes, play it next to Witch's Reeds, exactly. Now
Or is his hand too filled with Runecraft for that? Witch of Sweets is comparative by whether you have more neutrals
1-2, 1-2, whatever that tucked away. Is that a Felice way over
That's
there?
a Felice, right?
Okay, yeah, then he wouldn't actually draw.
I suppose things are doing just fine for Misobon. He's not in any particularly great amount of pressure. Ringo doesn't have a lion or anything like that being set up.
Ult is kind of weird here, but I do like playing Arya this turn because it enables the Garuda. So.
Playing Arya here at least gives Ringo a pretty powerful next turn with the Garuda. And honestly, something that I'm finding kind of strange is that I'm noticing a lot of neutral decks tend to forfeit a lot of their low-cost removals, as we had mentioned before, but this just doesn't seem to be a game where Lyriel's coming out, so there's a lot of awkward trades having to be made over followers that have had to evolve and get injured down to 1.
Right. Hector, a great draw.
Absolutely.
Amazing.
Hector just completely single-handedly deals with this.
Right. You know, followers that can come in and do damage to something, or evolve and do damage to something, are obviously very good. Allows them to 2 for 1 if they evolve. So
to spend an evolution point on a single follower to get a board flip like this when Misobon is so far ahead in card advantage is really good for him. Though, these Wizardesses of Oz do not have anything that they're working with, and I don't think Misobon's going to have the time to dump out much here. So I don't know if this card advantage is going to put him too far ahead in the long run.
I think it already has.
Hmm.
Yeah, I think it really has. Mostly because after Garuda, what does Ringo do?
Right, that is a good point. He's not been pressuring or hasn't been able to mount enough pressure for the Garuda to really end the game or come anywhere close to it.
I imagine Hector just always being the best play here, no matter how you look at it.
He has the option to drop Felice as well, it's just that either way he does it, he's not going to have a really different endgame or end of the turn board than an injured evolved follower that had to trade with the Eagle Man.
I think I do like Hector more than a Felice just because, never mind, just because you put up a ward, Felice can be ignored, so.
It won't be long now.
He does evolve Felice, but the 4/7 body
doesn't actually kill this yet.
Storm just simply does it for the stats.
March Hair's tea time.
Tea time going to work out very well for Ringo here. I believe if he decides to go for that instead of Garuda. Because Tea Time, unlike Garuda, is able to resolve the 4/7 with the Tin Soldier alone, and then that gives Garuda another really strong option.
Right. It does hop and evolve though, so eating 3 damage.
Right.
Police basically just soaking stuff here.
Playing the Garuda now puts a lot more on board. I'd say that puts Ringo pretty far ahead in life if he's willing to give up on the Evo point. If he's trying to go face here, he could go for a really aggressive play.
Not to mention if he does choose to play March Hair's Tea Time and attack this, it'll put Tea Time at 3, meaning that Hector is even better than he was last turn. So
really important decision to have to make here. Goes for the Garuda. Let's see how much of this he's going to commit purely face, because he could.
Just 6.
All of it.
Just 6. I do imagine because you didn't play March Hairs, you're saving the evolve here. However, he might not.
It's very powerful.
He might not. He's definitely thinking about it. Okay, yeah. I like saving the evolve, actually. I really do.
He gets a lot of value out of it. If he used it there, it would have been a lot of damage, but he doesn't have a visible way to really capitalize on any of that damage in hand.
Right. Hector, yeah, just Hector.
A shining helmet.
That bird would have died anyway, because Hector does a static 3. That bird would have died definitely to that. So.
Fate can't withstand me.
So Hector allows Misobon to stabilize over just 2 more followers.
But he did keep the oh, that's so unfortunate that he chose to buff that. Gilgamesh is huge, actually, because he can push 4 this turn with that bird.
That makes this a very simple.
And there's no ward in Misobon's hand.
Right.
I love that he saved this evolve. I love that he saved this evolve.
Deciding evolve
yes,
save,
it was. And he thought about it and he decided to do it, and it's gonna work.
Yeah, he chose not to be greedy with the damage then, and he gets rewarded by having the perfect way to push that damage now.
Also, just as a body, whatever, who cares? Gilgamesh, if there's no ward available, it's over.
Could have yet another mutagenic bolt.
That doesn't matter.
But that works not in Misobon's favor at all. Ringo.
With these sweeps, he gets these sweeps out of nowhere.
Literally more like 3-0.
Yes, yeah, that's his name. He's very similar to Lest, I would say.
Yeah,
he gets exactly the cards he needs. You know, plays excellently, obviously. You know, very, very, very meticulous about his plays.
Right.
Making sure those 2 evolves he had access to went very far, obviously.
He got a lot of lineage out of them. And
then Miso he's got incredible card advantage, but it's not going to matter.
Like that -4 play points we're seeing.
Yeah, it's a spectator bug. Oz does not spectate well. Gilgamesh
still goes for it. Oh wait, never mind. I was thinking the flame rats would pop at the end of the turn again.
Right, yeah, they don't do that.
Gilgamesh pops out. I never thought I would live in a world where
Gilgamesh is a card.
He is ending games.
Yeah,
left and right.
He's useful, dude. Like, I mean, honestly, when you have Alice, you can buff Gilgamesh, he's neutral, so he falls for that, right? And then just gives reach to decks
Yeah.
that don't have it. So
the ability to buff him in hand, I think, is absolutely what makes him